I am Dee Dee Bass-Wilbon.
And I'm Dina Bass-Williams, and we are the Bass Sisters.
And this is Policy and Pound Cake. Hope you guys had a great weekend.
Yes, it was a very eventful weekend. A lot of activity on the on the Capitol Hill in front of the Supreme Court. People pro and con.
For Roe v. Wade, it was overturned.
It was overturned. You know where we stand. Life is life.
And it begins
at conception.
But also, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of Title IX last week.
That was great. Dee Dee spoke at the Independent Women's Forum's rally. They made some great connections with women from the left and right. That was the thing that was the most impressive to me about that.
Tina, I would agree.
Like no shame in our game. We're on Team Conservative. We're conservatives and we're Republicans. Mm-hmm. We totally get it. But the thing that was amazing about the way the Independent Women's Forum handled this,
it was
the
truly
celebration.
Exactly. It was a celebration and it was a group of very diverse women who were there for one common reason of keeping women's sports female. It was great.
Really, there were women who were there who we probably don't agree on the day of the week. Yeah. But we all believe that women's sports should be protected and that women should be protected. And that was I found myself cheering for people that I would never
have been clapping for.
I mean, just like woo, and that is refreshing because it is about policy and not people.
It's about policy, not people. And we were able to celebrate and be on the same page of this policy. So it was great, absolutely great. Today is a good day. We're not going deep into politics the way we normally do, but we're talking about something that's very important. Mm-hmm. Executive search. We have our friend David Byrd, who's at Korn Ferry, and so check it out. Excellent. Well, we are so excited to have our good friend David Byrd with us today. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. You know, I love the Bass Sisters. I love to be with them. I love to be around them. They're so positive. Thanks so much for inviting me to Policy and Pound Cake. Forget the policy. Get me some of that pound cake.
Yeah, absolutely.
We will definitely work on that, David. So, David, you are currently with an executive search firm. Tell us exactly what is an executive search firm.
And what is your title? What do you do as well?
Exactly.
Sure. So I'm with Korn Ferry, the #1 executive search firm, not only in the U.S., but in the world. And I am what is called a senior principal. So for me, and in fact, last week, I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary with the firm. I joined the firm in June of last year. And what I have spent the last year doing is really learning the firm's processings, procedures, how they go about recruiting executives for corporate America, associations, nonprofits, colleges, and universities. In fact, I've done very well so far in my first year. 3 months after I came on board, I got a promotion. I originally started in the government solutions section because of my previous background in county, state, and federal government on how we can offer Korn Ferry's offerings to government entities. But because I brought in some business that was unexpected in my first 90 days, the leadership thought that I would be best suited in executive search, which is the recruiting, the finding of executives for those associations, nonprofits, corporate America. And so I've been in executive search ever since last September. I've led a couple of searches. In fact, I'm leading 3 searches right now. I've been support on a couple of searches so I could learn and shadow some folks who have been with the company for 8, 9, 10, 14. One person I'm working with, learning from 14 years. To learn the executive search business. And so to put it in a nutshell, we are known, Korn Ferry is known for executive search, go finding those executives, but we do much more than that. We offer, coaching services. We offer services, diversity, equity, inclusion, which we're very proud of. We offer organizational development. How do you reorganize? We offer a broad range of services, leadership and development that we offer as well. But our main service, our core service, the company's been around since 1945, located, headquartered in Los Angeles, is executive search. And we, to give you an idea when I talk about executive, so that means that we look for folks who are making 150 and above. Mm-hmm. That's what we term executive search. And so basically, so to give you an idea, what happens where I'm at my level of senior principal, what happens is Corporation X will contact us, or I'll contact Corporation X. Maybe they've got an opening. Maybe a person at a high level has just left. And I'll contact them and I'll say, hey, you know what? I saw in the paper, or I heard through one of your colleagues or someone who knows you that I'll either send an email, I may call and say, hey, this is what we do. We'd like to be considered for the search. And then normally either I'll they may say, hey, we already have a contract with a firm that does that, or we want to do it ourselves. Or they may say, hey, let's have a phone call. Let's have a discussion. And we'll have a discussion. And then what I'll do is I'll send them a proposal about how we conduct a search. And then if they like that, we'll have a Zoom meeting where I'll make a presentation. I'll talk about our services, how we do our searches, how we make sure it's a diverse set of candidates, Korn Ferry's proprietary processes, which are trademarked of what we do. We have a database of over 100,000 candidates that we keep, that we can go to at any point in time and type in keywords, and people's credentials will pop up that we can look for them as well as we contact other search sources, nonprofits, other people in that particular field to go look for a candidate. As I said to you, I'm currently leading up 3 searches. And one search I'm doing right now is the National Medical Association. They are looking for a new executive director. They're headquartered in Silver Spring, Maryland. And they are the oldest organization in this country for African-American physicians. They've been around since 1895.
Wow. That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
David, the database that you were referring to, how would someone get their name or their information into your database?
That's a great question. So there's a number of ways, but the easiest way is go to www.kornferry.com and register your credentials at www.kornferry.com. And you can get, first of all, we have a list of the jobs that we're looking for at the present time. We list them, all right? So if you see something on there you like, you can apply. And then your credentials get into the database and uploaded. And I tell people, even if you don't get considered, if you get considered and you don't get the job, the beauty of it is you're in Korn Ferry's database, because what that means is, even if I've put your name in the database, right? All my colleagues, everybody at Korn Ferry now have access to your credentials by just going into the database and typing in keywords that they're looking for a particular job. And then your name or your credentials pop up that you can be considered, looked at in terms of how we create a candidate pool for any particular job.
That is awesome.
It's a very fascinating process. Very fascinating.
Now, so you are clearly working, as you said, with the elite level, with the executive level. 2 kind of questions to splinter off of that. Post-COVID, are people at that level experiencing the same unemployment pains that we are in other areas? And how do you coach people to be ready for the executive level? And if they're not at the executive level, what advice would you give people who are kind of mid-level to enter the job market?
Great question. Another great question. Because of the pandemic, it has forced people, organizations, corporations to use the technology like we're using here right now. It's forced them to move forward with it. So all interviews, at least the first and second round, are virtual. Okay. It's There's no need. In fact, to give you an idea, when Korn Ferry hired me, the process was totally virtual. I met with the who wound up being my first boss. I met with the HR virtually. Met with my boss. The first round, second round interview was hired virtually. Was sent the contract by a PDF of the contract, so I could sign by auto pen, and I returned it. The offer was made virtually. I signed it virtually, and then they shipped my laptop and my phone to my house.
That's awesome.
I have not met any of my bosses in person yet. We have an office on K Street in Washington that is available, but nobody's there because of the pandemic, and they're continuing to work from home. There's an office manager there that's managing no one because there's no one there. There's maybe 2 or 3 people come in, 4 people at any one time, but it's not necessary because all the tools you have, Korn Ferry, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit like the Bass sisters, and you work for yourself, you've created your own company, you know what? You'd succeed at Korn Ferry, because this laptop that I'm talking to you on, they've got webinars to teach you everything you need to know to succeed in Korn Ferry. So if I want to learn how to do my timesheet, there's a webinar for that. If I want to learn how to do my expenses because I went on travel, there's a webinar for that. If I want to learn how to book my travel, right? There's a webinar for that. There's a webinar to teach you how to do everything that you need to do. They have frequent training that they have for folks. So if you are an entrepreneur and you are used to getting out there and doing it and making your way, you'll do very well at Korn Ferry, because no one is going to hold your hand. They're going to, I like to say, Korn Ferry drops you in the deep end, and baby, you better swim.
So, David, have you guys seen an increase in the number of people coming into your database? And once you're in the database, let's say I'm in, but I want to update it. Is it very easy to get back into your database and update your information if that's necessary? And how long do you stay in the database? Is it forever? Or like,
is there a purge?
Yeah, is there a purge of the database?
That's another great question. So I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if once you're in, can you make changes? I don't know that. Because I'm still learning how to utilize the process myself. I do know the information is kept at least 10 years, because if we go back, you can actually look at a candidate and see if we've utilized them in previous searches before and for what. I mean, it's that granular where you can see. And in fact, we have situations where we have contracts with client companies that if they are a client of ours, they actually pay us a fee not to poach. Meaning, if the Bass sisters were a client of Korn Ferry, I could not, go and go get one of the Bass sisters and then try to pitch them to somebody else, because you have paid us to not poach off of your employees. So wow. we have arrangements like that with certain corporations where they actually pay us a fee to do that. Now, you asked me a question earlier about coaching, or do we coach people? Yes, we do. We do offer coaching services for folks where we can actually coach them on resume writing, on one-on-one webinars, or we can assign them a coach to try to get them ready for other opportunities. If they're thinking about transitioning to another job, if they know that their business is going to downsize or close, but they don't know what to do, or they don't know where they should be looking, we have a whole suite of services for that.
Excellent.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, we're almost finished. Didi, I know, has the power question that we always ask at the end, but before we ask the power question, I will ask one more question just about technique, process. We are all living in this virtual world. We clearly are casual today. Normally, you're our long friend. Normally, when we do business meetings, we do dress up. We allow ourselves to wear BPA merch or Policy and Pound Cake merch when we're doing this podcast. But when we're conducting business, we dress up. We, do better to perfect our lighting and all those kinds of things, because we're living in a virtual world. What are some of the things that people should be mindful of when they're conducting business virtually these days? What are you're at the highest level, so what are you?
That's another great question. So I consider myself to be casual today, right? I don't, I'm gonna be honest. I put this shirt on because I was going to be meeting with you guys, but I wasn't going to put a tie on, and I'm very comfortable like this. But the mistake I think people make is when they're in meetings, business meetings, even if they're casual business meetings with colleagues and stuff like that, they should have at least a shirt on, or, if I'm meeting with clients, I will wear a tie. I don't necessarily have a jacket on, but I'll have a shirt and tie on if I'm meeting with clients. Now, if I'm meeting with a client and I'm making a presentation, or I'm putting together the client and a candidate in an interview, I will put my suit on as if I'm there with them in person. So I pick and choose. If I'm meeting with colleagues and stuff like that, I'm very casual. If I'm meeting with my boss, I may have a shirt on like this and it's open, and you see a lot of people, a lot of men do that. But if I'm meeting with a client, I might not have a jacket, but I might have a tie on. But if I'm meeting with the client and the candidate where I'm putting together a formal presentation, let's say I'm meeting with a client and I'm presenting 6, 7 candidates for them to look at in terms of initial candidates for them to, decide whether they want to interview them or not, I'll have my jacket on.
Okay.
I'll have a jacket and tie on. You should treat, and I tell people, if you, especially in an interview setting, if I'm going for an interview, when I interviewed for Korn Ferry, I had a suit and tie on as if I was right in front of that person in person.
Okay. So really the virtual world shouldn't change the way we behave in the real world.
No.
In the real world, I'm going to go dressed in,
especially if you're going for an interview, you want to present your best self.
That's right. Or if you're presenting to a potential client, or you're making a pitch, absolutely. You as if you are there, you present yourself, as if you are there with their in person. But I will tell you, in today's world, this is replacing the personal, the human interaction, because it saves costs, it's quicker and faster, and you can do more. I can do more of these in one day than if I tried to run into town. You meet me into town, I got to fly somewhere. Imagine I can do 3, 4, 5 interviews if they're only 30-minute each. I can do a number of these versus trying to meet them in person or get them in person. I mean, that's what the technology has done.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so for our final and the most important question,
I'm fascinated to hear what Dave.
I really am,
because I remember working with David Byrd. Was one of the most amazing coworkers when I took my BPA leave of absence, and we were at HUD together. And David has the metabolism of a 13-year-old
She used to
boy.
call me and tell me, "Oh my gosh, I cannot believe this guy.
He can eat anything.
He can eat anything.
I could not eat anything, and David could eat anything."
So David, we want to know, when you are talking policy with friends, family, whomever, what is your favorite dessert?
What is my favorite dessert? That's a great question. So, because I had some dessert last night. So I would have to say my favorite dessert is some good peach cobbler.
Ooh. Okay. Is it warm? I mean,
warm. Got to be warm. Got to be warm.
Got to be warm with ice cream?
No ice cream. I don't need ice cream on my cobbler.
Wow. Okay.
Very good.
Very good. Excellent. Okay. And what do you like to drink? Like, do you have something to drink with your peach cobbler, or is it just?
No. Although if you're asking me what my favorite drink is champagne. That's my favorite drink. But I don't necessarily, and I don't necessarily have it with the peach cobbler. Although I could, but more than likely, after I have a peach cobbler, I might have a cappuccino or a latte or something like that to top it off. But my favorite all-time drink always has been is a glass of champagne. Always, I love glass of champagne.
Absolutely.
All right,
David, thank you so much.
This has been fun.
It's been.
It has. It really has. And I look forward to coming back and talking about some other things about what's happening in energy. specific things that are happening in the search world. You know, there was one thing that you asked me, and I wanted to make sure you know, it is a candidate's market. So I want people to know out there, it's a candidate's market. So there are businesses are looking for great candidates. If you've got skills and credentials, you're relevant, you're wanted. And some of our clients have made mistakes and waited too long to either in their process or to make offers, and people have gotten other offers and taken them. I've got a client right now that lost out on 2 candidates because the process kind of dragged itself out and they got other offers and took them. So we had to continue into the candidate pool. So it is a candidate's market.
All righty then, everybody. You hear that? You heard it from Policy and Pound Cake and David Byrd first. It's a candidate's market. So
contact me at david.byrd@kornferry.com. Send me your credentials. I'll be glad to take a look at them, put them in our database, and consider you for any of the searches that I'm working on now. Remember, I'm working on, for anybody who hears this, National Medical Association looking for an executive director. If you've got a background in healthcare and you've got some great business background as well, contact me. We're still in the early stages.
Very good.
Thank you, David, so much. We appreciate you.
All right. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you so much.
Excellent.
It is always so good to chat with David. He has so much energy, and I just love it.
He really does have so much energy. And just quick tip, when I was at HUD in my little leave of absence for 505 days with David Byrd, David ate I was in the middle of getting ready to try to fit properly into my wedding gown. So I was doing some serious no sugar. And every time I turned around, we'd have, you have little office events and everything.
Right. David was always eating. Whenever David would come to our office in DC, he would cookies, danishes, whatever. I mean, he could just eat. And
where does it go?
Where does it go? I'm like, David. So that was great.
But in addition to that, he's just his wise counsel over the years, really for better than a decade. His business counsel, he is exactly where he needs to be at Korn Ferry at the height of executive search. Absolutely. And we encourage you to take him up on that and send your information to him. It's good to know it's a candidate's market.
Right. So it's up to you. It's up to you. You got to get it done. Get it done. So thank you guys for joining us in this episode of Policy and Pound Cake. Remember to like, share, and follow. We appreciate you. In case you missed them, you can listen to archived episodes of Policy and Pound Cake